Cebu, good evening Philippines. We are privileged to have royalty tonight on the show. Princess Kiram. Welcome to Open Mic.
Thank you. Maayong gabi.
Maayong gabi.
Good evening to everyone.
Princess.
Good evening, Cebu.
Princess. So we have an actual princess here, and I heard from sources that you are running for senator.
Yes.
Yeah, you are running for senator. You are an ally of the vice president.
Yes.
Is this a long relationship that you've had with the vice president, or is this a recent alliance that you've forged with this party?
Well, the vice president, when my dad was still living, or during the Sabah standoff, he's helping us pero ano lang, tago, ganon.
Or is it, where I'm coming from is this, no? Because there is a belief that Secretary Mar Rojas was on the other side of things, during the Sabah standoff. And so I wonder if this is the reason why you're affiliated now with the vice president, because of where Secretary Rojas was allied at the time.
What helped me in deciding to be with the VP is that when I made a research about him, to be honest, I was also affected by the black propaganda
Toward the vice president.
the vice president. But, until I realized na, lahat pala ito ay propaganda lang.
Lahat?
Oo nga naman. This happened, all the accusations are accusations noong mayor pa siya. So, walang akusasyon o alegasyon during his time as vice president. So, I spoke with him.
But don't you think the person's track record in terms of, for example, positions he has held before, if there are issues involving him at the time, aren't these issues that you feel are important that he should address? Because it's a black propaganda, but they say when there's smoke, there's fire. I'm just asking.
Well, I asked him why did you not answer the Senate?
Why did you go to the Senate hearings?
Yeah, the Senate hearing to answer all the allegations. Sabi niya, physically I did not go, but I answered it in writing.
Okay.
So lahat yun nasagot. Kaya nga, I was not convinced at the beginning of all this. Pero alam naman natin, kalidad, karanasan, it's all in the vice president. Sa lahat naman ng mga tatakbo for president now, he's the only one, I think, no? And I believe, at nakita na natin, napatunayan natin na credible at saka talagang may kakayahan, and napatunayan na yun ng Makati and all the systems.
I'm looking forward to talking, with the vice president. He confirmed with me that he was going to sit here at some point. So,
nauna na ako.
Nauna ka. You're the advanced party is a princess, no less. No? So it did not affect you. The what you call black propaganda didn't affect you. But did you get a firm commitment from the vice president that should you win, or even if only he wins, or you win, that he will support your claim to Sabah?
That's what made me decide
to
go with him at umikot na ng kasama siya in the whole of the Philippines. Kasi what he told me was, I know, Iha, that you have an advocacy, and this is a very good avenue for you to advance your advocacy. Ang sa akin naman, malaman lang lahat ng Pilipino ang storya ng Sabah. I am 100% sure that dalagin na nila yan sa puso nila, because Sabah is ours. It's not Malaysia's.
Is that your sole reason, the sole motivation for running for the Senate?
Yes.
So when you become
senator,
number one
reason.
Number one.
Yeah, number one reason, but not the sole reason.
Yeah. But when you become senator, apart from Sabah, what are other issues that you feel strongly for?
Well, for women.
Okay.
Kasi for everyone's information, I grew up an ordinary girl.
You said
schooled in
You said a while ago that
Manila.
You didn't even know that you were royalty.
Yes.
You thought princess.
Akala ko princess is just my name.
Like Princess
and not a
Punzalan.
title. Yeah. But like when I was in college, I represented in the United Nations.
I
represented the Philippines. I represented the Philippines in the United Nations. doon grabe yung treatment. Like, they call you talagang, good morning, princess. Ay, yung pagka-princess na address sa'yo, parang nakakakilabot as if prinsesa ka talaga. But then, in Germany nga daw, one of the delegate told me that, sabi niya, may history yung visit. Oh, princess, you did not tell us about your family dynasty. In my mind, dynasty ka dyan. But yun
But
nga,
when did you come to
see
know that you come from a long line of...
Well, as I was growing
from the
up...
15th century, if I'm not mistaken.
But all this... parang... All the story of my being a princess and my being in the royal family happened when I was doing my thesis. Kasi parang for me, it was just all hearsay. Naririnig ko lang na, prinsesa ka, anak ka ng sultan, ako, wag kang maghawak ng walis, gano'n, or your maid,
but your
can't
dad,
just
of
call
course.
you bougie,
But of course, your dad, you know that he was being called a sultan.
Yes. Habang lumalaki ako, yun na yun. Alam ko, my dad is a sultan. But, okay, very ordinary people kami talaga eh.
You feel like Princess Jasmine? She was a daughter of a sultan.
Wala ganon. Hanggang sa, yan ang ginawa kong thesis in college.
Which was?
Philippines' claim to Sabah.
Okay.
The genealogy of the Sulu Sultanate and its relation to the Philippines' claim to Sabah.
Okay.
Kasi nga, ang dami naman nagsulputan ng mga sultan kung saan-saang lugar.
Alright.
And
in Mindanao.
In Mindanao. So when I was doing my thesis, lahat sila kinoconnect nila yung roots sa Sultanate of Sulu.
So you are the oldest sultanate?
Yes. The Sultanate of Sulu has been in existence, I think, older pa than the Ming Dynasty. Because during Ming Dynasty, Sultan Batara, who's the Sultan of Sulu then, visited China. Visited the emperor in China.
Wow.
They had trade relations already.
This person would be your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather.
As a matter of fact, as an evidence to this, there is a tomb in Shandong province. It's like Rizal Park. Ganon. Now I think it's a tourist attraction.
Okay.
Doon nilibing si Sultan Batara.
Ah, really?
It's a tomb of Sultan Batara.
Have you been there? Have you visited?
No, but
You
hopefully by next year.
Yeah, you should like pay like a pilgrimage
Yes.
tour, no?
But my dad and my mom, they went there in 2005. They visited the tomb.
Ah,
Yes.
wow. I'll get the details later. I'm very curious to visit also. I go to China once in a while. But so going back, no, this is like a long generation of royalty in Sulu, far older than the Philippines, no? Right.
Yes.
Even before the Spaniards colonized the
Correct.
Philippines.
Yes.
So all of this predates that. And am I correct? The fourth Sultan of Sulu eventually became the first Sultan of Brunei.
Yes.
So the Bolkiahs and the Kirams are cousins.
Yes.
Are you in constant communication with them, or do you?
Personally, ako hindi, wala.
But your dad.
My dad, when he was a chef de mission,
yeah.
he was received well when they went to Brunei.
Was he received as a cousin?
Well, he said they're cousins. The Sultan of Brunei or the Prince of Brunei said they're cousins.
So that's very nice. So, and all of this, this is where this is where we can actually trace the beginning of the story of Sabah.
Yes.
No, when the fourth Sultan of Sulu became the first Sultan of Brunei, and then his brother became the fifth Sultan of Sulu. Correct? And then at some point, there was a rebellion in Brunei.
In the 17th century.
Yes.
There was a rebellion in Brunei. So, as relatives, Brunei asked help from Sulu, from the Sultan of Sulu. So the Sultan of Sulu sent his people to help quell the rebellion in Brunei.
What was that Sultan? He was was it the fifth? No,
I don't know kung paalang Sultan, but basta 17th century Sultan.
Okay.
So as a token of gratitude,
Asked
winning
help
against the
being
rebellion.
cousins.
Yes.
No, being cousins.
Nung natulungan na ang Brunei, as a token of gratitude, North Borneo was given as a gift to the Sultan of Sulu.
And that is how, that is where the historical claim of the Sultanate to Sabah, that's where it starts.
Yeah, that's where it
North
started.
Borneo is Sabah.
North Borneo is Sabah. It was not called then Sabah. It was called North Borneo. It was leased by a British North Borneo company.
Oh, you know that this is the more complicated part of the Sabah story. But we have to pause for
All
a
right.
break. I'm very interested in genealogy, and at least we're going back centuries ago, but we have to talk about the details of our Saba claim after we pause
Okay.
for a short break. We're back here in Open Mic talking about the history of Sulu and the history of Saba with Princess Kiram. So we were talking about Sulu, and over the break, I think you made a very good point that even before the Spaniards came, we were already pretty much set. We were set up. I mean, we were already very much civilized.
Yes, but
But
in
in
our
the-
history books, like what they're teaching us in elementary and in high
But we
school.
were savages.
Yes, that when the Spaniards came here in the Philippines, we were all illiterate and we knew nothing. So
The truth of the matter
the truth
is,
of the matter is we have government already in the form
Yes,
of the
yes.
Sultanate of Sulu. And we have trade relations, diplomatic relations
With
to
other countries.
neighboring countries.
Like China.
China and even in the Middle East.
Okay. And then, the Sultanate of Sulu, the coverage was it far extended beyond the Mindanao.
Yes.
No, it extended far beyond that.
Up to the northern part of the
And
Philippines.
Lapu-Lapu, Datu Lapu-Lapu was
It's a subject of the Sultan.
a high-ranking
Yeah.
subject
Datu
of the Sultanate.
Yes.
So, and then you were saying about Pangasinan, no?
Yeah, Pangasinan in Tausug would mean gawaan ng asin. But look at Pangasinan. It's really gawaan ng asin. It's
the seafood.
salt-producing
And then the seafood.
Pangasinan is a Tausug term, actually.
So it was the realm of the Sultanate of Sulu then really it covered practically the whole country,
The whole of the Philippines.
including the other ethnic including the other tribes that are non-Muslim.
Yes, but there's also the Sultan of Kudarat
There were
during
two.
that time. But the biggest in
Are they
in
related?
scope- no,
They're not.
but the biggest I think. Oh, the biggest is the Sultanate of Sulu.
And at the time, the Sultan was already Muslim.
Yes.
Ah,
Okay, it started with an Arab missionary married to a princess of Indonesia.
okay.
They settled in Sulu.
But the Princess of Indonesia was not Muslim
Muslim.
already.
Yes.
Okay. And they settled in Sulu
They settled in Sulu.
in the 15th century.
For, I don't know, mga 13th century pa siguro.
And that's how the
That's
line
how the
started.
Sultanate of Sulu started.
Okay. Let's talk about Saba. What I know is, at some point, over 100 years ago, there was a lease agreement between the Sultanate to the British Borneo Company,
Yes.
which is a private company.
Yes.
And it was two private individuals, I think a nobleman and a lawyer, who were like the main stakeholders of the British Borneo Company. It was leased to them,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And that at some point, when they dissolved, it was dissolved in favor of the UK government.
Yes.
That is right. Which, incidentally, was a colonizer of Malaysia.
Malaysia was not yet Malaysia at that time.
Yes.
So they
And then at some point later on, when they gave independence to Malaysia, they included what is now Sabah
yes.
as part of the national
As
sovereign.
part of, of
The territory of
of
Malaysia.
But during the time when it was still leased by a British North Borneo company, it's a private company actually. They're paying 5,000 Mexican gold coins.
Okay.
But when Malaysia was
Took over.
when Malaysia took over, they increased the rent.
Who increased that?
Malaysia 5,300, but currency nila ringgit.
Until now.
Yes. If you compute that,
How much is that in pesos?
it's like $1,000, so mga 49,000
Good God.
pesos.
Every month. Every
One
year.
year, annual rental payment for a property that contributes 23% of the GDP of Malaysia.
Wow.
For a property that earns $72 billion.
Wow.
So with
That's
this,
the oil, right?
yeah, because of its natural resources, and to include yung oil.
And yet, the people of Sabah are among the poorest in Malaysia.
Yes, poorest of
Correct,
the poor.
no? It's just like Mindanao.
Yes.
That a country, well, an area in the Philippines so rich in natural resources is ironically, ironically has the poorest people.
Yes.
No? So it's the same with Sabah. I'm sure all the sultans, your ascendants, are turning in their graves, knowing that this is happening right now. No, so until now you receive rent.
The last rental payment was given in 2013.
Okay, why did it stop? Because of the.
I don't know if it really stopped or we just late lang or hindi pa talaga, hindi ko pa kasi nakita yung 14 and 15.
But isn't the payment of the rent an admission on the part of Malaysia that they don't actually own it?
Yes. That's the very reason why we still receive the rent.
Exactly.
Because we cannot do anything. We're not sovereign now. And we need the support, supposedly, support of the government, of the Philippine government. Because to tell, Mike, that the Sultanate of Sulu is not anymore independent of, not
Yes.
anymore sovereign.
Yeah.
It was
You exist
incorporated.
within.
It was actually illegally incorporated in the Philippine government in 1935.
Okay.
Pero we did not make any reclamo that we were incorporated in the Philippine government, and yet we have proven that we really want to be partners of this government to bring
Sana ba?
lasting peace in
Okay,
Mindanao.
okay.
Pero hindi nga ganun kami tinatrato. Now that we are incorporated in the Philippine government, therefore, the responsibility and the obligation of getting this property of ours back for the Philippine government, for the Philippines or for the Filipinos, is now in the shoulders of the Philippine government.
Yeah. But our current government is not actively pursuing it.
Hindi. As
What
a
is
matter of
the
fact,
foreign policy position of the Aquino government?
That I do not know. We've been asking them that. Ang sabi, when the Sabah standoff happened, doon na lumabas ang issue ng Sabah. Ang sabi, they need pa daw to study the Sabah issue.
But there was a time that the Sultanate of Sulu ceded, no, to in favor of the Philippine government the claim to Sabah. Am I correct?
Yes.
What year was that?
It was in my lola's time eh. Pero ang
After the war, or before?
I think I'm not sure really.
Because I think that was the impetus for, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, for the Macapagal administration and also the Marcos administration to pursue reclaiming Sabah.
During
Am I
Macapagal
correct?
administration, he was very much in support of reclaiming this
Yes.
for the Filipinos. He worked for it. As a matter of fact, because of his move, nagkaroon ng Manila Accord. And Manila Accord was the last documentation for Malaysia acknowledging that we have claim over the territory of North Borneo.
And then Marcos also wanted to pursue it?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why there's this Operation Merdeka. The plan was really to infiltrate Sabah, and the people of Sulu, or yung mga soldiers daw, were trained pa by the special forces. Pero it did not go
It did not
through.
succeed,
Yeah,
no?
it did not succeed because I don't know.
Is
it
true
was compromised daw eh.
Is it
was
true that
compromised.
the father of the current president, Senator Ninoy Aquino, tried to put a stop to it? Because there is a conspiracy theory, no? A popular conspiracy theory that Senator Ninoy Aquino was actually in league with the Malaysians.
Well, actually, it was not compromised. Hindi naman niya nilabas yung that there's this Operation Merdeka.
Ninoy.
What ang nilabas ni Ninoy was that yung massacre.
The Jabida.
The Jabida
Which
massacre.
is,
Na hanggang
it's
ngayon,
contentious if it really
yes.
happened. But would you know if Senator Ninoy Aquino was really on the side of the Malaysians at the time
Well, according to
and against reclaiming Sabah?
I'll quote someone because we had the forum in UP and he was very vocal about saying that Ninoy, on his way back to the Philippines from the US,
All right. The one when he was assassinated?
yes, he did not go straight to the Philippines.
Okay.
Instead, he stopped by. He had a stopover in
Stopover.
Singapore, and then from Singapore they went to Johor, because the Johor Sultan at that time was very close to Ninoy,
Okay.
to lobby for the help of Malaysia for Ninoy to win the presidency, during their time.
So he was there was a friendship there. But
Yes.
whether he was in league with them and supporting them and in exchange dropping the Philippine claim to Sabah if he becomes president, that is still a conspiracy theory.
But there's a kwento pa more about that. No?
Okay.
When he went back, he got assassinated. So the wife became the president. During the time when the wife was the president, in the Constitution, in defining the territories and boundaries of the Philippines,
They excluded.
they deleted the phrase historical claim.
Very interesting. Now it's becoming more interesting because we're talking about the history of our country and our claim to Sabah, if we actually own it. And of course, the conspiracy theories make it even more delicious. But we have to pause, as usual, for this short break. We're back here on Open Mic with Princess Kiram. Before the break, we were talking about the relationship of the Aquinos and the Sultan of Johor, no? And I heard, but I don't know if you have any knowledge on the matter, that they go a long way back. That President Noynoy Aquino, the son of Senator Ninoy, so it's like 2 generations of friendship. Care to share what you know about
Yeah,
that?
I learned that when I attended a forum in UP, and that Consul General Dorado was talking about the relationship of Johor Sultan
Okay.
and
Which is in Malaysia.
yes, and Ninoy's homecoming in the Philippines.
Okay.
So I found out that Ninoy and the Sultan and the Sultan of Johor's son during Ninoy's time lived in Boston
The son.
with Noynoy.
Okay, of course not together, but no, they were friends.
Yeah, because they
he
were
was
friends,
studying in
yes,
Boston.
He was studying in Boston.
Okay.
Now that Noynoy is the president,
The son.
that son of the Sultan then is now the Sultan of Johor.
And the Sultan of Johor,
Is one powerful sultanate in Malaysia.
he has influence over the affairs of the state, over the prime minister.
Yes.
Would you say he's the one of the most powerful sultan?
One of the most powerful. I don't know kasi kung sino pa yung mas powerful.
And so what you're saying is let's just put 2 and 2 together.
That's why this made me understand why in 2013, when the standoff in Sabah happened, this administration of Noynoy acted as the spokesperson for Malaysia.
Instead of
I know I understand diplomatic relations, but of course, you have to give more value to the interest of your people more than your relationship with whoever country.
So, you mentioned before, no, that during the drafting of the 1987 Constitution, they excluded our historic claim to Sabah, no, our historical claim to Sabah. So that gives us an idea where the Aquino government of Cory, where they stood. What about Ramos? Was he in favor of reclaiming Sabah?
As far as I can remember, I was kasi na high school pa ako niyan or elementary eh. Pero
He was not very passionate about it.
I think FVR is a very close friend of my father.
Okay.
But when he became president, yeah, he wanted them to drop the claim.
Also. What about President Estrada?
Walang
It was too short.
yeah.
President Macapagal Arroyo.
Well, when I spoke to her just recently, she said that the first country he went when he became president was Malaysia, and they spoke up and they talked about the issue on Sabah.
Okay.
That's why when she came back in the Philippines, she ordered to have the Sabah Commission.
Okay.
So she's asking me nga, what happened to the Sabah Commission? And then I asked her, who handled it po?
But she didn't have like a hardline stance like her father. That that we ought to reclaim Sabah.
She believed in reclaiming Sabah back.
Okay.
But
But she wanted the process.
yes, she wanted the
Okay,
process.
she wanted the facts in place. We have a territorial dispute with China, and of course, I stand by the Philippines on that. But it's just funny and ironic that we actually went to The Hague to dispute China's 9-dash, no? 9-dash line, no? And then, because theirs is a historical claim,
Yeah.
and we say that we do not believe in the historical claim, yet our government, the Aquino government, on the other hand, chooses to, trying to force the BBL to happen, and in effect, allowing our country to be, to be torn into pieces, when this is already our country. There is no dispute. Mindanao is Philippine territory. It's part of our national sovereignty and territory. And yet, there is now this effort to cozy up with the Malaysians and sort of give a big chunk of our country to them. This is already ours, and we're giving it away. Yet here, a disputed area, we're saying it's ours and refuting a historical claim. So it doesn't make sense to me, no? Because you get what I mean?
Even in, they're very selective in in everything that confronts them. Selective talaga ang administrasyon.
That's why.
Even in how to deal with issues, they choose, I don't know, if it favors them, then
that's right. I mean,
deal with it.
Speaking of being selective and the United Nations, last week, the decision of the UN Commission on the case that was filed by President GMA in the UN, on being arbitrary, that her detention is arbitrary and illegal. It was filed by Amal Alamuddin Clooney, and it was already won. Now, I'm just very curious how the Philippine government would accept the recommendations of the UN, because if they do not accept it, I'm very curious how they would justify filing. We filed a case in The Hague on our claim.
Well, they have to always respect the decision of the United Nations. It's United Nations.
It may not be completely binding, but we are signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But what I'm saying is, if we do not honor it, and then The Hague comes out with a decision on our dispute with China, and it's favorable to the Philippines, then China can always say, "Hey, we won't follow it because you didn't even follow the recommendation."
UN,
So what I'm saying.
Because it did not favor them.
This is just about the selectiveness of things in relation to this administration. But okay, let's talk about the BBL, because you already mentioned the BBL. What is your position on the BBL?
Well, first things
Bangsamoro
first.
Basic Law.
Yeah, first things first. Who's behind the BBL? And naman our fight with whoever is behind the BBL. Ang sa akin, if Malaysia really wants to help in giving Mindanao a lasting peace, then first things first. We have a territory that could be very beneficial to not just the people in Mindanao, but to the entire country of the Philippines.
And contribute to our development.
Yeah, ibalik nila sa atin. Or,
Sabah.
we sit down and talk about the issue on Sabah.
However,
They created a solution. First, they created the problem just so that they could come up with a solution
that
could benefit them only and not the Muslim Mindanao.
Would you say that your opinion against the BBL is representative of Muslims in Mindanao, or
Well, I've spoken
is it
to a lot
popular?
of Muslims, and they are against the BBL. Well, practically speaking, if you considered ARM or ARMM as a failed experiment, then you must have known what made it fail. So, if
but isn't that the recommendation of Senator Marcos? That is his alternative, right?
Yes.
To revisit the ARMM and to take into account lessons learned from.
Kasi it's going to be it's going to be always like that. Na there's a group fighting for independence or fighting against the government, and then the government will deal with them, come up with a whatever, like ARMM for the MNLF and now for the MILF, this BBL. So 10 years from now, what group will exist that emanates from MILF, because MILF emanates from the MNLF. So what do we call that peace agreement again, 10 years from now?
Chicken and egg, no?
So we have to go to the root cause.
And then you mentioned before we started the interview that, like for example, the Sulu Sea.
Yeah, one provision in the BBL that I didn't like, and I will never like it, is the provision of changing the Sulu Sea's name to Bangsamoro Waters. Well, Sulu, the name of Sulu has been in existence wala pa pong Pilipinas. So that is the very that is the very essence of having a sultanate in Sulu. So kung ang Sulung name napalitan na ng Bangsamoro, ano pa ang justification for the existence of the Sultanate of Sulu? And wala na tayong magkiklaim ng Sabah because it's only the Sultanate of Sulu who has a claim to North Borneo, Sabah.
And I was told the term Bangsamoro is not even it's not even
personally. Sabi kasi political name daw yung Bangsamoro. But if you claim for autonomy, if you claim that you have never been conquered by any of the colonizers, why adopt the name that was given by the Spaniards? Remember, in history, we were called Moros by the Spaniards. So why adopt the name given by the Spaniards?
Unfortunately, our time is up. It was a very informative and educational discussion with you on history, on our claim to Sabah, and some very intriguing conspiracy theories, which may more or less explain, no? I mean, in some way, why we are where we are right now, vis-a-vis our claim to Sabah. But very quickly, yes or no to BBL?
No to BBL.
Yes or no to our claim to Sabah?
Of course, yes.
Thank you, Princess Kiram, and
Thank
I wish you
also.
all the best for the upcoming elections and your plans.
Well, it's not actually for me, but it's because of the advocacy that we carry.
Good luck, all the best.
Salamat.
And this has been another episode of Open Mic. This has been your host, Mike Lopez. Until next week, good night and Godspeed.